Hey everyone, welcome to episode 6 of the Feb4 Sports Show. I'm your host, Tom Stone Cold Nicita, and thanks for tuning in as always. We appreciate all the comments we're getting on TikTok at the moment, all the love and the hate. It helps us regardless, so whatever you've got, throw it our way. We're having a laugh, we're enjoying what we're doing, so if you got any comments like that for us, it helps us all in all, so we welcome them. Cheers. So this past weekend in sports, starting with the NRL, this past weekend, Magic round, it looked like a really good round to be there. I wish I was there, but maybe next year we'll get up there. It was a really big weekend for the table, particularly the top 8. 7 teams in the top 8 changed positions. Obviously, the talk of the round would be around that Penrith and Storm game. Now, look, Penrith supporters, I've thrown some shit at you guys. I've poked the bear. I've tried to take the piss out of you guys. Obviously, some people didn't quite see the humorous side in it like I did. I was just having a laugh. Everyone knows that you guys are the premier team in the comp. You're obviously the reigning premiers. So for anyone who didn't quite get that I was joking and didn't quite get that I was just poking the bear, it was just all a little bit of banter. At the same time, you are now only 50% against the top 6. Yes, you have beaten the Melbourne Storm. Yes, they were down 2 of their 3 best players. But, you can still claim the win. Keep Mountie bopping all you want. If you guys wanted the consolation win, you got it. As well as all the banter aside, Viliami kick out. He is an absolute freak. He's easily one of my favourite players to watch in the game. He was so dominant. The try that he scored off Nathan Cleary's bomb was unbelievable, showing like ridiculous vertical leap for a man his size, unbelievable. He also had a couple of really good offloads close to the line. He was always dangerous. And if I was a Panther supporters, I'd be devastated that he's leaving for the Bulldogs next year. On to the Bulldogs. I called it about 4 weeks ago. I said that if Trent Barrett didn't pick up any wins anytime soon, he'd be facing the chopping block. You never want to see a coach get sacked. If you put yourself in his shoes, he's got a family to support and, it's obviously his career. So you don't ever want to see that. But, for the talent that the Bulldogs have, they're easily, in the top kind of 6 to 8-ish teams on paper, in my opinion. They've got that much depth and that much quality in their squad. So, you can't justify having only 2 wins this deep into the season. Yes, a win against the Roosters a few weeks ago kind of gave them a little bit of hope. But the talks were that Trent Barrett wasn't even coaching the squad that week when they picked up the win. So, all things added up, it didn't look good for him. And the players always win in that case. I'm not saying that the players were against him, but the players are always going to come out on top there. There are a few names being thrown around for who's going to take his place. Personally, I'd take Cameron Ciraldo, the current Penrith Panthers assistant coach. He's one of the big names being thrown around at the moment. I think he's quite a quality coach. And, with the Panthers on the weekend picking up a win over the Storm, obviously Ivan Cleary wasn't there. And there was someone there to coach them, and that was Cameron Ciraldo. So I definitely think that he should be a name to be thrown in the mix. The Eels. What do I say about the Eels? I feel like I sound like a broken record sometimes. Say, they're wildly inconsistent. They're a chance at the premiership. No, they suck. And that's really the roller coaster that you ride as an Eels supporter. It's hard to pick, They beat a Penrith Panthers squad at full strength when they're severely undermanned. I think the Eels had 4 to 5 players out. They beat the Panthers, and then they go on to the Roosters with the same squad and can't seem to get the win, even though they did make a really good comeback at the end. I actually had 2 mates message me and call me just before the Eels and Roosters game saying, hey, I've got some money on, who would you back? And to both of those mates, I said the Roosters because the Eels don't make me confident at all. The Roosters obviously found a little bit of form last week as well. And, it goes to show the Eels too inconsistent at the moment to even contend for a premiership or even think about that at the moment. Now, this isn't a season-defining loss for the Eels, and I don't really think it's going to absolutely kill them. But going into this weekend, coming up against the Manly Sea Eagles, a loss could see them move as low as 8th. And obviously, after seeing Tom Trbojevic play on the weekend, he looks like he's carrying a little bit of an injury. Whether he plays or not, I think the Eels need to be winning this game in order to kind of make that stronger roll of momentum going forward. They've got a few winnable games coming up in their next 5. I know that they've got the Bulldogs at one point. I think they've got the Raiders coming up as well. So they really do need to pick up a win here against the Sea Eagles and kind of take momentum going forward. Obviously, again, with Trbojevic being injured, that might leave them a better opportunity to pick up the win. On to a team that we rarely mention on the show. I feel like we have to talk about them this week. The Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. Like the Eels, they are wildly inconsistent. For all the shit that I've given the Panthers about beating top 6 to top 8 teams, the Manly Sea Eagles, as of yet, haven't beaten a top 6 team either. Obviously, they got pumped by the Brisbane Broncos 38-0 on the weekend, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. Obviously, they got pumped by the Broncos 38-0, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. But it was a pretty piss-poor performance, in my opinion. Fortunately for all 12 of you Manly fans, they have done this before where they've had a really poor start to the season and then pushed for a strong finals berth like they did last year with Tommy Turbo obviously playing in the form of his life. However, I get a feeling that it's not going to be like that for the Sea Eagles this year. Look, too inconsistent. Again, I think teams are starting to work out Tommy Turbo. In particular, they're cutting off his space as much when he's returning the ball. I feel like they're also double teaming him off the back of block plays, so it's kind of limiting his options. I think he is also carrying a niggling injury as well. So I'm not going to go at Tommy Turbo. I think that there is an injury there, and I do think that he's just trying to play at the moment to give the Sea Eagles a little bit more of a chance. But yeah, for all 12 of you Manly fans, all hope isn't lost just yet. We have seen the Manly Sea Eagles do this before where they've started poorly. I'll just be starting to get a little bit worried with a few more losses coming up anytime soon. Unfortunately for Manly, they are a team that are severely dependent on 3 to 4 players. And not only that, but they throw pretty much their entire salary cap at those 3 to 4 players. When any of those players aren't on, it's a really difficult task for them to win. Again, talking about Tommy Turbo's injury and Daly Cherry Evans not playing his best football, it is ridiculously hard for them to win when those two players are off. And I don't see that improving anytime soon. Yes, they will pick up their wins against the lower teams, but I really don't see them pushing and beating any top teams anytime soon. I would go harder on you Sea Eagles fans, but I know that there aren't many of you left, so I'll just keep my comments to myself for now. Moving on to the team that beat the Manly Sea Eagles, the Broncos. The year of the ambush, baby. Dan and Kemp called it. Bloke in a bar called it. Man, they are looking good, and it definitely does look like they are ambushing a couple teams at the moment. What a game by the Brisbane Broncos, who welcomed back Payne Haas and Kurt Capewell. Both looked really, really good on returning. If we literally copy and pasted what I said last week about Adam Reynolds and Selwyn Cobbo into this segment right now, you'd all be agreeing with me, and you'd also all be hearing what the media have been saying over the past weekend. I just think I got in first. Adam Reynolds is playing unbelievably right now. In my opinion, that may have been one of the top 5 performances of his career. There are no performances that show that much individual brilliance from him that come to mind. Obviously, his chip and chase try was unbelievable. And then there's 2 pinpoint kicks for Selwyn Cobbo. Really, really good play from Adam Reynolds. In my opinion, there aren't many better halfbacks in the competition right now. Really, outside of Cleary and Jerome Hughes, I can't think of any that come to mind. Personally, I think Reno is now getting to show more of his quality being at the Broncos. Obviously, there's less star power around than there was at the Rabbitohs when he had Cody Walker, Latrell, Alex Johnson, Dane Gagai, all those players outside him. Personally, I think Reno is showing his quality, and he's also showing that he's not just one of the best halfbacks in the game, he's also one of the best halfbacks of this current NRL modern generation. And, you might think that that's an outlandish statement, which is fair, but think to yourself, how many halfbacks have been more successful than him in the last 10 to 15 years? Honestly, there are probably only 5 names that come to mind, and outside of your Cronk, your Thurston, your Cleary, your Mitchell Pearce, there aren't really many names that come to mind outside of that, and then bringing Reno into that conversation. I really think that he is one of the best halfbacks of this modern generation, particularly in the last 10 to 15 years. If you think we're wrong, let us know. But really, outside of those, a few names that I mentioned, I can't think of many halfbacks who I'd consider to be better than Reynolds, and particularly not having as much success as he's had. He's obviously had a grand final win, a few late semi-final appearances. I really think that he's in that conversation right now. Also, copy and pasted straight from last week, Selwyn Cobbo. He obviously formed with Adam Reynolds beautifully on a couple of tries there. I think it's undeniable now that he's got to be thrown into that Origin squad, at least that top 20. He is killing it right now. And, he's obviously shown all the talent and all the abilities to be one of the best wingers in the game. He's got speed, he's got anticipation, he's good defensively, he's good in the air. Yeah, I really think that there's some good things to come for Selwyn Cobbo. And if he can play the next 2 to 3 games as he has been playing, I think that there might be some Origin football ahead for him. Now, obviously, we're 3 weeks out from State of Origin, so it's time to start talking about it as we do. There are plenty of different options that both the New South Wales Blues and Queensland Maroons can be choosing here. I had a look at both squads today from the last few years, and most of the forward pack will remain the same for both teams. Obviously, there'll always be those 1 or 2 changes that come in. At the moment, for both teams, the biggest room for change or the biggest room for improvement to be made is the outside backs. Obviously, with the Blues, we'll start first. Tommy Turbo and Latrell Mitchell, both injury clouds over their heads. Latrell has definitely been ruled out, whereas Tommy Turbo, how he's going at the moment, he looks like he might miss game 1, obviously depending on how this hamstring and knee is holding up. As a Blues fan, we have plenty of options, which is really good. I think personally right now, you can't deny that Kotoni Staggs has got to take one of those centre positions. For me, I'd be putting him in Latrell's spot. He shows how good he is when he has quality players around him. I think for the past few seasons, we haven't really been able to see the quality, obviously because he's been injured and because he hasn't had players like Adam Reynolds and the forward pack around him playing as well as they are now. So I think Kotoni Staggs has to snap up one of those spots. I really do think he's not only one of the best centres in New South Wales right now, but easily the game. And obviously the other centre spot with Tommy Turbo and an injury cloud hanging over his head. There are a few options. A few weeks ago, I called for Sifa Talakai, and he's quietened down a little bit. He's still playing very, very well, don't get me wrong, but he has quietened down a little bit. Obviously, knowing Brad Fittler and how Brad Fittler is really loyal to his winning squad, I could see them putting Jack Whiten in centre. I don't think Whiten's been playing too bad this year, so it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And that would also leave room for Nico Hines to come on the bench and, fill that utility role that Jack Whiten has been playing for the past few seasons. Obviously, you have other options in there like Stephen Crichton, Sifa Talakai, or Matt Burton if you kind of wanted that, Mr. Fix-It who can play a few positions. But I think it's a really good problem for the Blues to have. At the moment, I would definitely be going Kotoni Staggs and then probably bringing Talakai in. However, that will all depend on whether Toby Turbo is injured or not. Onto the Maroons. If you look at their team over the past few seasons, you'll see that obviously, Kurt Capewell has had to fill in the centres. Obviously, they've had to play a few players out of positions due to injuries and depth. But with the Broncos and the Cowboys currently killing it and both being in the top 8, I think that the depth is starting to be there, and I think that there are a lot of players finding form. So obviously, at full strength, Queensland have a few options at fullback between Kalen Ponga and Reece Walsh. We'd assume that Kalen Ponga would get that spot. And then, looking at their squad from last year, Tabuai Fido may have to miss out due to how well all the other Queensland players are playing. I think that Valentine Holmes might move into his spot in the centres, and then that wing spot vacates itself for Corey Oates or Selwyn Cobbo. I think it's a really good problem to have as a Queensland supporter. Obviously, everyone who makes it is going to be great quality, and people who miss out, there's still going to be some really good quality there. I think that Reece Walsh could also find himself in that utility role on the bench, or maybe even Ben Hunt, the way he's been playing. I know his name would probably be forgotten about in that Origin arena, but the way he's been playing when the Dragons are on, I think he's the Dragons' best performer each and every week, so we could see him there too. The next 3 weeks of football are going to be absolutely insane. We could see as much as the top 1 to 7 positions in the English Premier League be decided across 2 games. At the moment, we've got a fight for 4th between Arsenal and Tottenham. We've got a fight for 5th, 6th and 7th. Manchester United look to be the team that may miss out there. However, they still hold the potential to maybe finish in that top 6 spot. I'd be putting my money on Arsenal to come away with the 4th position. However, we all know through our Feb4 Sports Show bets that Arsenal can bottle anything they want to at any given time, and Tottenham are only 1 point off them at the moment. So you never know. It is going to be a really interesting next few weeks of football. And of course, at the other end of the table, there are 3 teams fighting to stay out of the relegation zone. We've got Burnley, Leeds and Everton. Obviously, Leeds and Everton are 2 of the bigger clubs in England, at least support and merchandise-wise. So it's going to be a really interesting next few weeks. I personally hope that Leeds and Burnley stay up. As a Liverpool supporter, I hate Everton. Would love to see them drop down. A week is a hell of a long time in football, and one result can really change the entire table. So we just got to wait and see how that finishes up. And on to the NBA. And now on to our road to 10K multi. Look, it's getting embarrassing coming here every week and saying sorry. And, to be honest, you guys deserve better from me. I'm just wondering whether, this punting game's for me. Maybe I just take a week off and, rest up and recuperate. Maybe the mathematicians are right. Maybe we don't have a shot at winning 10K. I back myself not only as a punter, but as a man of the people. And right now, I believe that we should be 6 legs into a 10-leg multi on the road to 10K. But great things take time. Rome wasn't built in a day. And I didn't bench press 170 kilos on my very first attempt. It only took me about 12 attempts. The point is, we need to trust the process the way the Philadelphia 76ers fans didn't trust Ben Simmons. The point is, we really need to trust the process in the way that the Philadelphia 76ers fans didn't trust Ben Simmons. We need to back ourselves. Here is what will be our 5th attempt at our road to 10K, and hopefully our last attempt at our road to 10K before we end up bringing that money out and then spending it on a big weekend up in Goldie somewhere. For those of you who don't know what the road to 10K is, we put $10 on $2 odds or greater. We then compound those wins. So obviously $10 on a $2 win would give us $20. We compound that to win $40, etc., etc., etc. 10 wins in a row equals 10K. And here is our bet for 10K. So we have 3 legs. It's a little bit harder of a week this week for the NRL. So I've only picked one game, and that's the Brisbane Broncos to beat. And that's the Brisbane Broncos to beat the Newcastle Knights. I know that the Knights picked up a win, but it was against the Bulldogs, and I think that the Broncos are in flying form right now. So I've got the Broncos to beat the Knights. I've got the Brisbane Lions to beat the Hawthorn Hawks in the AFL. Brisbane are killing it right now. They've only lost 1 game this season, so I back them there. And then I've got Richmond over Essendon in the AFL as well. So that's 2 AFL legs, 1 NRL leg. Altogether, those are going to come to $2.22. We put $10 on that, and then we're going to compound that when we win as of next week. And hopefully, we're only 9 legs away from winning 10K. Cheers.